Today's video is on the SCP-939 full rework, and all the different changes to SCP-939. Now, today I'm not just including the gameplay elements and the entire change in the model, but the lore behind why these changes were made. Because a lot of people have been asking, why is 939 so thick? Why is 939 walking around on two legs like a human? Why is he, or wait, maybe she, humanoid? Well, there are actually lore answers to these questions based on content that Northwood has released and theories from the community that people like me and Tony have made. Tony made a great video on it, and I'll link that in the description. It's part of what I used to create my own theory. Now, for the lore of SCP-939 and why the model looks the way it does, and for why the test/containment chamber for SCP-939 looks the way it does, you should watch Northwood's video for details. The most important element in the video that summarizes everything they are showing us is the whiteboard of lore! There was an unidentified female spotted at Site-19 during the breach event. There were soil samplings indicating an unknown substance in the lab, and the researchers were looking into some sort of virus/cell/bacteria under the microscope. This information together brings forth my theory that some researcher or researchers at Site-19 were doing some sort of experiment between SCP-939 and humans. Maybe trying to create some sort of self-healing cells for medical purposes, or just studying the similarities between humans and SCP-939, as SCP-939 can bear offspring somehow. Through this experiment, something went wrong, whether it was putting SCP-939 cells into the unknown female human, creating some sort of cell virus that escaped and helped mold SCP-939 with a human it just ate, or even if the researchers specifically tried to make a hybrid human SCP in the experiment, the results were the same, the creation of an SCP-939 humanoid with a human skull at the end of its snout and a human ribcage exoskeleton on its chest. Since the monster is so thick, the human I think it merged with was a female, specifically that unidentified female at the site. When the new humanoid SCP-939 was recaptured after the breach, it was brought to the facility we know now, the SCP Secret Laboratory Facility, Site-02, and that is how the new SCP-939 was created that I'll be talking about in this video. So, starting off with the general summary of the rework, SCP-939's full rework aims to move the SCP towards an ambush-type role. It has received a variety of new tools to allow it to better perform this role. SCP-939 retains its ability to switch between walking and sprinting. This time, SCP-939 will have a stamina bar, similar to that of the human classes, though it's a little more limited than that. It runs out a lot faster. SCP-939's base movement, walking speed, is slightly slower than that of a human, though its footsteps are almost entirely silent. By pressing the shift key, SCP-939 will begin to use stamina, and move significantly faster than its base movement speed. SCP-939's stamina bar allows it to sprint for bursts of approximately 10 seconds, before having to wait a further 10 seconds for the stamina bar to begin recharging, though some chases may last 15 to 20 seconds where you go in bursts of sprinting, then stop and open a door, bursts of sprinting, stop and open a door, because that's the main juke players use. The lower SCP-939's stamina bar is, the shorter its range of vision becomes. So just like 106, where the less basically stamina that he has, the less one of his abilities can work. The first major change to 939, besides the model, is his claw ability. SCP-939's basic attack has been changed into a low damage area of effect AoE attack, similar to SCP-096's attack, though with a more forgiving hitbox. The basic attack, Claw, deals 30 damage with 75% armor penetration. SCP-939's Claw key can be held down, allowing a continuous attack, with each attack taking 0.6 seconds to complete. To put this in perspective, below are statistics on the damage this attack deals to differently armored targets. So an unarmored target is 30 damage, which takes about 4 hits to kill. Light armor is 27 damage, which is again 4 hits to kill since you're trying to get to 100. Combat armor is 25 damage again, 4 hits to kill, but now heavy armor has a little bit of an extra use because it takes 24 damage, which is 5 hits to kill. Of course, there can be other factors applied to this, like having additional health from adrenaline shots, or having candy, like the purple one, that gives you damage resistance. That can also screw with the number and let you survive more hits. Ultrasensitive. The current SCP-939 has a unique vision mechanic, using environmental sounds to determine its surroundings. The rework keeps this mechanic, but improves upon it, making it more visually appealing, and this is one of the biggest changes that was made, allowing SCP-939 to only see color within a certain small range, based on his stamina. The area which SCP-939 can see normally represents SCP-939's limited sight. Inside of this zone, humans will appear as usual, and will vanish when they walk outside of its radius. Outside of this radius, SCP-939 can no longer see humans. Instead, they are represented by the sounds that they make. These sounds are things such as walking, running, shooting, and using items like a medkit zipper. Sounds appear as red, expanding circles emitting from the sound's origin. Throwing items also produces sound, allowing human classes to distract SCP-939, and I don't think enough people use this. If you throw your keycard at the wall, 939 will hear something at the wall, go to the other wall, and you can crouch walk away. The next attack change is one of my favorites, Focus and Lunge. To make SCP-939 more of a hunter class, and to honor the four-legged SCP-939 model, SCP-939 can now retract into an alert position on all fours to prepare for a devastating attack. By pressing the control key, SCP-939 begins to activate Focus. Over the course of 2 seconds, SCP-939 lowers on all fours, its movement speed crawls to a halt, and its field of view, FOV, drastically widens. Once SCP-939 is fully focused, it will be able to see sounds from up to double its original distance, allowing the player to find players to hunt easier. Being in focus also enables a new attack for SCP-939's Lunge. As the name implies, SCP-939 pounces toward their intended victim. The human hit by this attack will be killed instantly. In addition, humans near the impact radius will take some residual damage. SCP-939 will take a moment to recover from this attack, potentially leaving it vulnerable to attack by the militant classes, such as the MTF or Chaos. Now, some things that they don't explain in their Patreon post is that it's limited so that you can only stare at the 180 degrees forwards. So you can look straight ahead, a little bit to your left, a little bit to your right, but you can't actually look behind you. So the Lunge, when you set up for it, you can only go in a forwards direction. You cannot go backwards. You'd have to leave the Lunge. And also, when you complete your lunge and slowly stand up, it's not slow, it's fast, There is not much time for the militant classes to attack you. Yeah, don't expect much time to survive after it pounces. Also, SCP-939's area of being able to see a player without them making sound, it's extremely small, so the fact that it only doubles when they're crouched down to pounce isn't huge, so don't worry too much about it. 939 still can't see you crouch walk unless you're like walking right in front of its nose, at about like 1 to 2 meters away. Like, give yourself at least 2 human body lengths of distance. Maybe 1.5. Just don't walk near him, especially when he's in pounce mode. Next up is an ability that hasn't quite yet been added to the beta, the Amnestic Cloud. Amnestic Cloud is a new ability for SCP-939. SCP-939 can now project a cloud of near invisible gas that affects the minds of its victims. Humans who walk into this cloud stop being able to perceive SCP-939's presence, allowing it to set up ambushes and kill a group of humans without them ever noticing its presence. This ability is not without drawbacks though. If SCP-939 makes an attack, or is shot by a human, it will become visible for a brief moment. This gives the human classes time to react and defend themselves. So think of it kind of like a horror movie. The MTF, they walk into an invisible fog, entering the facility, trying to find 939, and with a flash and a flicker, an MTF's throat is slit. And then the next MTF screams as his head is ripped off. Literally, 939 would flicker in and out of existence basically for them, as it eats them alive. Then they start just shooting their guns everywhere, like people who would shoot their guns into a forest if there was monsters nearby that they thought, like they heard sounds in the forest. And he would just flicker and appear wherever they shoot their bullets, which again would be good gameplay-wise for aiming at, but thinking of it as an outsider's perspective, that's like a horror movie. SCP-939 has been made terrifying, and I absolutely love that. Finally, the Amnestic Cloud inflicts the currently unused status effect of amnesia. This status effect was previously inflicted upon receiving a bite from SCP-939, but was removed in an earlier release. 12.0 sees its return. Amnesia stops human classes from being able to perform certain actions, such as reloading their gun and using healing items. With Many Voices may be the coolest ability that they've added to the game ever. Like, to me, this thing is fantastic, and has made 939 the most fun SCP to play. So, the updated version of With Many Voices is the most ambitious ability yet. Previous versions of this ability allowed SCP-939 to communicate with its victims with no drawback, which is literally you press V and you could talk to them. Northwood appreciated the fun memories that we had, all of us players, with this version of the ability, but the old SCP-939 was uninspired, with it being the most generic playable SCP in the game. Whilst Northwood has decided to move away from the uninterrupted proximity voice chat, their team has opened up adding a form of proximity voice chat to SCP-939, should the sub-abilities below feel incomplete. They'll make their decision based on the feedback from both this Patreon post and as well as the upcoming Patreon beta. So if you feel like you still need to have that V key where you can still talk to players, then you can let them know. Comment at the bottom of this video and say, hey, I think that 939 should have its voice back, not just steal other people's voices. But stealing other people's voices is so fun. By pressing the Tab key, SCP-939 opens a menu similar to the inventories human classes have. Here there are a few options, each with their own cooldowns. Firstly, it can set a mimic point. Mimic points haven't also yet been added to the beta, so we have to wait upon that. I'm excited for when they do come out though. The mimic point acts as a set location for SCP-939 to project its prey's voices for an indefinite period of time. This allows SCP-939 to trick its prey, allowing it to ambush them more easily. Mimic points are marked with an on-screen ping indicator, similar to SCP-079's ping system. Mimic points do not disappear with time. Instead, they are detected once SCP-939 has moved more than 20 meters away from the point. SCP-939 also gains the ability to steal the voices of its prey that it kills. Now this is implemented, and it's so fun. Uttering the last 4 seconds of speech, I thought it was 5, oops, that was made before death. This ability has a cooldown of 10 seconds and can be projected to mimic points. Please note that players have the opportunity to opt out of this system, so if you don't want your voice recorded for any reason, you can opt out of it, though again it's just the last 4 seconds of you using your mic. You can disable the feature in settings. The system is voluntary, with information about it being displayed in the first time a new user attempts to join a server. Having the ability to copy the voices of the players that you kill is so fun, because you can either copy screams, if they're screaming, you can copy, hey, let me into 914 if they were saying let me into 914 a couple seconds ago, you can copy this and have this be repeated over and over again, or this. It's just all great, all fantastic. SCP-939 can also activate footstep mimicry, which again hasn't quite yet been added to the beta, but I'm excited for when it does. Footstep mimicry is the only type of mimicry that cannot be projected to a mimic point, as it replaces SCP-939's footsteps with those of another class. This ability lasts for 10 seconds before starting a 20-second cooldown period. Finally, SCP-939 can activate playable SCP mimicry. This allows it to mimic the sounds and footsteps of a currently alive SCP. This ability lasts for as long as the copied sound effect does, or in the case of mimicking SCP footsteps, for a maximum of 10 seconds. This ability has a separate 20-second cooldown and can be projected to a mimic point. Now again, this hasn't been added in yet. So basically, playable mimicry, footstep mimicry, and the mimic point haven't been added yet, just the ability to steal voices. Now, don't get me wrong, the ability to steal voices is already fantastic, so when those do get added, 939 will become even more fun to play. SCP-939's containment chamber has also been changed. With a full SCP rework comes the need to redesign the SCP containment chamber. SCP-939's old containment chamber was a bare bones relic of the past. The room is designed using old assets, and it was far too simple for what it was supposed to be, and does not appear as or function as a containment chamber, because 939 can just walk right out of it. Suffice to say, SCP-939's old containment chamber is the perfect example of what Northwood wants to avoid when redoing their rooms. In contrast, SCP-939's new chamber aims to fix all of these issues. It has a containment position, it has lockers, it can have a generator in it, it even has a working scale. That's right, Hubert put the time in to make a scale in the office work so you can toss an item on it and it will tell you how much the item weighs. As for being a proper containment chamber, SCP-939's new room now features a research facility attached to a Foundation-contained cryopod to house SCP-939 for study. Northwood believes this makes the room more lore appropriate, which it really does. The opinion of the room being more visually appealing is down to the individual, but they think that everyone will find it more interesting, and so far I find it so much more interesting, and every viewer that I've read a comment from has complimented the room and wants more of the game to be changed to rooms similar to it. And I agree, I want to see the hallways more similar to that kind of style, because it's really cool. It felt like it was an entirely different game when I first looked at this room, like you were stepping out of Secret Laboratory into a new SCP game. Another thing that they included in the 939 rework is the operational guide. For too long, Northwood has felt that the new player experience for SCPSL was a little bit confusing, or a lot of it confusing. The game provides minimal direction about your goals and abilities. New players are introduced to a variety of weapons, anomalous items, and other game objects and mechanics that they may not fully understand. This is increased if they are not familiar with the SCP universe. Back when I joined the game, I was barely familiar with the SCP universe at all, and I had to figure everything out. It took me a while. Whilst a full-scale tutorial would be unsustainable due to large changes to the game, Northwood would like to create an in-game information bank, known as the Operational Guide. Northwood's goal is to improve first-time user experience, while also providing interest and quality of life features for returning players. Northwood plans to continue expanding the system with future updates. Adding new pages to the OPG, aka the Operational Guide, is more realistic for them than updating the tutorial system every time an update is released. Northwood isn't going to spoil the Operational Guide in the post, but the below images give a sneak peek at what they're going to be working on for it. Northwood has also added some lore to every page of the OPG. Northwood feels like SCPSL is at a point where it can finally start expanding the narrative of the game, finally creating their own lore or expanding upon previous lore. Perhaps we the players can piece together some interesting information about Site-02, or the Foundation. Well, we are going to have to wait for more updates to come and continue theorizing through the information that we have, and that I've given you in this video.